Evan and Jennifer had been together since college, the kind of relationship everyone thought would last forever. From late-night pizza runs to weekend getaways that turned into blurry memories of laughter and intimacy, they built something real, or so Jennifer believed. She had trusted Evan with every part of her, his flaws, his dreams, his silences. She knew them all and loved him still, but love alone had never been enough for Evan. And twice before, he had walked away the first time. It happened. They were just 2 years into dating. Jennifer had just started her first job at a nonprofit, struggling to balance work stress and keeping their relationship alive. One day, Evan grew distant, claiming he needed space. That space turned out to be Maria. Jennifer had met her once, Roy's cousin who visited town for a few weeks. She remembered her clearly. Sharp eyeliner, contagious laughter, and a way of looking at Evan that made Jennifer's stomach twist. Jennifer confronted him when she found a photo of them together on Roy's social media. Evan didn't lie. "I didn't plan it," he said, as if that made it better. "It just happened. She understands parts of me you never do." Jennifer was broken, but not foolish. She let him go, but Evan came crawling back months later, saying it was a mistake, that Maria was just a moment of confusion. He said all the things she'd secretly hoped to hear during those long, cold nights without him. So she forgave him. Against her better judgment, she let him back into her life. Things felt different after that. Jennifer tried harder, always slightly on edge, afraid he might slip away again. She lost pieces of herself in the process, trimming her voice to not sound too needy, smiling when she felt like screaming, giving more than she got. It was around their 5-year mark when it happened again. Jennifer noticed the late replies, the locked phone, the guilt that hung in his eyes, even when he smiled. Her heart already knew before her brain caught up. Maria was back in town, and so was the betrayal. He didn't even try to hide it this time. "We reconnected," Evan said, like she was some forgotten contact he'd stumbled upon. "It just made me realize, maybe I'm still not ready to settle down." Jennifer stared at him in that moment, not crying, not yelling, just empty. She let him walk out, taking all his things, all his promises, and all her patience with him. She spent the next year rebuilding, slowly, quietly, painfully. Roy, of all people, became a surprising source of comfort. They started out grabbing coffee, mostly complaining about their shared experience of being the other left behind. Roy had been dumped by Maria years ago, but his bitterness turned into empathy when he saw Jennifer struggling. Something grew between them. Not rushed, not dramatic, just honest. With Roy, Jennifer felt seen. Not for who she could be, but for who she already was. There were no games, no locked phones, no sudden silences that sent her spiraling. One cold evening, Roy held her hand as they walked through the park. "You don't have to prove anything to me, Jen. I like you just the way you are, messy, healing, real." That night, for the first time in what felt like forever, Jennifer slept without dreaming of Evan. Then came the third time. It was almost poetic. Evan showed up at her apartment one Saturday afternoon, flowers in one hand, regrets smeared all over his face. He talked about how things with Maria fell apart again, how no one compared to Jennifer, how he had changed. He stood there, waiting for her to collapse into his arms again, waiting for history to repeat itself. But Jennifer didn't even flinch. She stared at him, calm, composed, like she was looking at an old photograph. Familiar, but distant. "I'm sorry," she said simply. "But you're late. I'm not that girl anymore. I don't wait for people who leave." Evan's smile faltered. You're with someone else. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Roy stepped out from the kitchen with 2 mugs of coffee, looked Evan dead in the eye, and handed one to Jennifer. You should go, she said softly, and don't come back. The door clicked shut behind Evan, but the sound didn't echo like it used to. It didn't leave her heart racing or her thoughts scrambling for reasons, for excuses. This time, it was final. Jennifer stood there for a moment, her hands wrapped around the warm mug Roy had given her. She didn't cry. She didn't even sigh. There was peace. Quiet, unshakable peace. Roy didn't ask what Evan had said. He didn't need to. His face told her he understood everything. He sat on the edge of the couch, watching her carefully, like someone studying a storm cloud, to see if it was going to rain or disappear. You okay? He asked gently. Jennifer nodded, then walked over and sat beside him. He looked exactly the same, but I didn't feel anything. No pull, no pain, just nothing. Roy leaned back and smiled. But there was something else in his expression. Relief, pride, maybe even love trying to sneak through without permission. That's because you're not the same. Jennifer let his words sit between them. She thought about how far she had come. There was a time when Evan's presence would have knocked the wind out of her. She would have begged him to stay, even if it meant sharing him. She would have twisted herself into something smaller, more forgiving, more desperate, but not anymore. Roy changed the subject, giving her space. So, we still going to that art show tomorrow? She smiled. Yeah, of course. I want to see that weird sculpture made out of forks. Roy laughed. You and your taste in trash-turned art. They spent the rest of the evening curled up together, not talking much, not needing to. The silence between them wasn't heavy like it used to be with Evan. It was easy. Jennifer rested her head on Roy's shoulder, feeling a kind of warmth she hadn't known she deserved until now. But the past, even when buried, had its way of stirring. The next week, Jennifer started getting messages, not from Evan, but from Maria. The first one was simple. I heard what happened. I guess congratulations are in order. Jennifer stared at the screen, unsure how to respond, or if she even should. But curiosity got the better of her. What do you want? She typed. Maria replied within seconds. Just a conversation. You and I have more in common than you think. Jennifer didn't tell Roy. Not yet. She wasn't hiding anything, but she didn't know what she was walking into either. So, she agreed to meet Maria in a public place, safe, bright, and open. The coffee shop was buzzing when she arrived. Maria was already there, wearing black sunglasses, even though it was cloudy. She removed them when Jennifer sat down. Her eyes, "We're tired. Thanks for coming," Maria said, not with arrogance, but something close to exhaustion. Jennifer folded her arms. Say what you came to say, Maria sighed. Evan always made it sound like he was the victim, like you held him back, like you didn't get him. I believed him, twice. Jennifer said nothing. She just stared. I was wrong, Maria added. He's not broken. He doesn't know how to love anyone unless he's in control. You know that already. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. So you wanted to tell me what I already lived through? Maria shook her head. No, I came to tell you. I'm done too. You don't need to worry about him showing up again. I blocked him. He begged, cried. I saw who he really was. Jennifer leaned back, slowly nodding. It's not about worrying anymore. It's about not caring. Maria looked genuinely surprised, and maybe a little impressed. Good for you. Jennifer stood. Thanks for the coffee, she said, even though she never ordered one. She walked out of that cafe, not because she was angry or hurt, but because closure wasn't a thing someone else gave you. It was something you claimed. Later that evening, she told Roy about the meeting. He didn't seem threatened. He just listened and nodded. "You don't need to explain anything," he said. "I trust you." And in that moment, Jennifer realized something even deeper than healing. She was finally safe. A few weeks passed, and life slipped into a new rhythm. The kind of rhythm Jennifer had only ever seen in other people's lives. The quiet steadiness. The comfort that didn't require pretending. She and Roy weren't dramatic or wild. There were no explosive arguments or passionate makeups. What they had was something deeper. Consistency. One rainy Saturday, they stayed in, making pancakes, while music hummed low in the background. Roy danced terribly while flipping them, and Jennifer laughed so hard she snorted. That moment, so small and silly, etched itself into her memory more than any bouquet Evan ever gave her. But not everything in her life had caught up to the calm. That Monday, Jennifer's boss called her into a closed-door meeting. "I need to ask," her boss began. "Is everything okay at home?" Jennifer blinked. "Yes. Why?" Her boss exhaled, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "Someone sent this anonymously. We weren't going to show you, but, well, you deserve to know." Inside were printed screenshots, edited messages, taken out of context. They made it look like Jennifer had been gossiping about her co-workers, including one that implied she was sleeping with a client to close a donation deal. Her hands trembled. "These are fake." "I believe you," her boss said immediately. "But HR needs to investigate, just to cover protocol. I'm sorry." Jennifer left the meeting with her breath lodged somewhere between rage and heartbreak. It didn't take long for her to guess who was behind it. Evan. He couldn't get her back, so now he wanted to tear down whatever was left of her stability. She didn't know how he got access to anything, but he always had his ways. Old passwords, mutual contacts, or just plain manipulation. That evening, she told Roy everything. She expected him to get angry, maybe even offer to confront Evan himself. But instead, he did something better. He listened. Then he quietly picked up his phone and called someone. Jennifer didn't catch the whole conversation, just bits and pieces. "Yeah, I need that trace run." "No, it's personal." "Yeah, it's him." After he hung up, he looked at her with an unfamiliar seriousness. "I never told you this because it didn't matter before, but my brother works in cybercrime. If Evan's behind this, we'll know soon." Jennifer looked at him stunned. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," he replied. "Because people like him don't stop unless someone makes them." A few days later, they had confirmation. The IP used to send the email to her workplace was traced to a private network Evan had used before. It was sloppy, maybe on purpose, because Evan never believed Jennifer would fight back. But she wasn't the same girl who begged him to stay. She was the woman who had already left, long before he came back. Roy handed her the report. "You can press charges. My brother said the evidence is solid." Jennifer stared at the papers. For a moment, she was quiet. Then she shook her head. "No, not yet. Let him see I know. Let him squirm." The next day, she mailed Evan the report, unsigned, with a sticky note. "Nice try. I'm still standing." A week later, he tried calling. She didn't answer. He emailed. She deleted it. He tried showing up to her building. But Roy was there first, waiting with folded arms and a look that made Evan think twice. "You don't get access to her life anymore," Roy said calmly. "A walk away before this becomes legal." Evan left, and this time, he didn't come back. Jennifer finally felt free, not just from Evan, but from the part of herself that once clung to chaos like it was love. She realized she had spent so long surviving that she forgot what it felt like to simply live. Now she could, and she did. Spring crept in slowly that year, and with it came light, longer days, softer mornings, and a quiet kind of hope Jennifer hadn't felt in years. She found herself waking up early, not because of anxiety or habit, but because she wanted to. Her mornings became sacred. Warm tea on the balcony, Roy's soft snoring from the bedroom, and the city coming alive below her like a gentle reminder that life had moved on, and so had she. Work cleared her name after the investigation. Her boss apologized, not with hollow words, but with action, giving her a new position managing community outreach. It meant more hours, more responsibility, but also more purpose. She felt trusted again, valued, and Roy had become her constant. He never tried to fix her. He didn't treat her like a broken thing needing repair. He just loved her where she was and grew with her at her pace. They had fights sometimes, sure, like when he forgot their dinner reservation or left his socks under the couch again, but it was different. Their fights ended with understanding, not silence. Apologies, not guilt. One Friday evening, they were walking home from a small local event, her hand tucked inside his coat pocket, when Roy suddenly stopped mid-step. "I want to ask you something," he said, eyes serious. Jennifer looked up, a little nervous. "Okay, not that," he chuckled. "I'm not proposing, yet." "Calm down," she laughed, relieved and annoyed. "Then what?" "I want you to come with me next month to see my mom." Jennifer blinked. She hadn't met any of Roy's family yet, mostly because he kept things quiet while she was healing. But this felt real, big. "Are you sure?" she asked. Roy nodded. "She knows about you. She's been asking when I'd stop hiding the woman who makes me smile like an idiot." Jennifer felt warmth bloom in her chest. "Then yes," she said. "Let's go." The trip was quiet, intimate. Roy's mother lived in a small town, 2 hours away, in a cozy house surrounded by wind chimes and rose bushes. When she opened the door and saw Jennifer, she smiled like she'd been waiting forever. "So this is the girl," she said, pulling her into a hug. "I was starting to think he made you up." They laughed over tea and homemade cookies. Jennifer watched Roy with his mom, gentle, patient, funny, and saw a version of him she hadn't known before. That night, while Roy slept on the couch to give the ladies their space, Jennifer found herself lying awake in the guest room, her heart calm, her mind finally quiet. It wasn't until the next morning, while they were packing up to leave, that she saw the framed photo on the hallway table. It was a group picture. Roy, Maria, and some others, taken years ago. Maria was laughing, her head thrown back, arm casually around Roy's neck like a sister. Jennifer paused. "You and Maria, you were close." Roy came up behind her, saw the photo, and nodded. "Yeah, we were best friends. Before we dated. After she broke it off, we didn't really talk. Too much history." Jennifer turned to him, searching his face. "Do you still think about her?" Roy didn't lie. "Sometimes, in the way you think about someone who shaped you. Not because I want her back." She nodded slowly. "And what if she showed up again?" Roy stepped closer, brushing her hair behind her ear. "Then she'd see I finally found the person I was meant to wait for." Jennifer didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The past would always leave a mark, but it no longer held her back. Back in the city, things settled into an even warmer version of routine. Jennifer began spending most nights at Roy's place. Even though she still kept her own apartment, there was comfort in having a key, in knowing she could come and go, and still be wanted either way. They talked about possibly moving in together by the end of the year, but there was no rush, no pressure to prove anything. They were simply building, day by day, in a way that felt natural. But life, even when steady, had a way of testing the foundations. One Thursday afternoon, Jennifer was reviewing reports at work when her phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. She ignored it. Then came a message. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just 5 minutes. Please?" "Evan." She stared at the screen for a long time. Her thumb hovered over the delete button, but she didn't press it. Not yet. Not out of softness, but because something inside her whispered, "End this properly. Not just ignore it. Close it." So she told Roy later that evening. He paused, fork halfway to his mouth. "What are you thinking?" "I'm not sure," she said honestly. "I think I just want to hear what he thinks 5 minutes could possibly fix." Roy nodded, not thrilled, but not possessive either. "Just don't let him pull you into his storm again." "He can't," she said. "I don't live there anymore." They met the next morning in a quiet corner of a public park. Evan looked worn, older than he should have at 32. His eyes were red-rimmed, like he hadn't slept much. And he was smoking again, something she hadn't seen him do since college. "I'll be quick," he said, stuffing the cigarette out against a tree trunk. "I just wanted to say I know I messed up. Not just with you, with everything." Jennifer folded her arms. "You already said that last time." "I know," he said quickly. "But this time it's not about getting you back. It's just, I don't think I ever actually said thank you." She blinked. "For what?" "For loving me when I didn't know how to love anyone back. For staying longer than you should have. For walking away when I didn't deserve your silence." Jennifer looked at him. For a split second, the memories returned. Not soft or sentimental, just factual. What she gave, what he broke, what she survived. "You're right," she said. "You didn't deserve it, but I needed to give it, to learn." Evan nodded. "Maria's gone. For good this time. She saw who I was." Took her long enough. Jennifer felt no joy in that. No victory, just closure. "I'm getting help," he added. "Therapy. For real. I don't expect you to care, but I thought you should know I'm trying not to destroy everything I touch anymore." Jennifer stood quietly. Then with a calm that surprised even her, she said, "I hope you become someone better, Evan. But for someone else's sake, not mine." And with that, she turned and left. No dramatic ending, no lingering glances, just peace. That night, she and Roy went out for dinner. Nothing fancy, just a little Italian place they both loved. Over pasta and laughter, she told him everything Evan said. Roy just raised his glass and smiled. To 5 minutes that didn't change a damn thing. They clinked glasses. And as the night stretched on, filled with small jokes and quiet touches, Jennifer felt something shift inside her again. Not like the sudden crash of waves, but like the steady pull of the tide toward shore. She was whole. Not because Evan was gone, but because she was finally, completely herself. The summer rolled in slowly, soft and golden. Jennifer had always loved this time of year. The long evenings, the hum of life in the city, the way everything seemed to slow down just enough to catch your breath. But this summer felt different, better. For the first time in years, she wasn't dragging pain behind her like a second shadow. She wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. One Sunday morning, she and Roy visited a street market near the river. Local artists lined the sidewalks with paintings, crafts, and music that made the day feel almost dreamlike. Roy wandered off for a few minutes while Jennifer admired a table of handmade jewelry. When he came back, he held a small, unmarked box in his hands. "Not a ring," he said immediately, grinning at her expression. "Relax," Jennifer laughed. "You've got to stop teasing me like that. Open it." Inside was a bracelet. Simple, silver, elegant, with one small engraved word on the inside. Resilient. She turned it over slowly in her fingers, her smile fading into something more emotional. "I had it made last week," Roy said. "I didn't know when to give it to you, but I figured today was good enough." Jennifer looked at him. "Why this word?" "Because that's what you are," he said. "More than anything, you didn't just get through it, Jen. You came back stronger, and I see it every day." She didn't respond right away. Instead, she wrapped her arms around him and buried her face into his chest. He smelled like citrus and fresh linen. Home. Later, that week, she met with an old friend from her college days, Amara. They hadn't spoken in years, mostly because Amara had always been close with Evan. But time changes people, and maybe Jennifer needed to see for herself how far she'd come. They met at a rooftop cafe. Amara was already there, sipping iced coffee and waving like they were still 22. "I almost didn't come," Jennifer admitted as she sat down. Amara smiled, a little awkwardly. "I wouldn't have blamed you. I was pretty quiet when things fell apart between you and Evan. I didn't know what to believe. Or maybe I didn't want to see what was obvious." Jennifer stirred her drink. "He fooled a lot of people." Amara hesitated, then leaned forward. "He's not doing well, you know. Drinking too much. Got fired from that tech firm. Lost his apartment." Jennifer looked out at the city skyline, feeling nothing. "That's not my problem anymore." "I know," Amara said. "But I wanted to say something else. I should have checked on you. Back then. You were always the strong one, I guess. I assumed you'd be fine." Jennifer looked at her, calm and steady. "I wasn't, but I am now." They parted on good terms, and Jennifer didn't feel drained by it. That, she realized, was how healing worked. It didn't mean forgetting or pretending the pain never existed. It meant learning how to face the things that once hollowed you out and feeling full anyway. Back at home, Roy was in the kitchen making dinner. He turned when she walked in, grinning like always. "How was the reunion?" "Surprisingly decent," she said, wrapping her arms around him from behind. He leaned into her, humming softly. "You smell like espresso and judgment." She laughed. "Fair." They ate on the balcony that evening, the sky painted in fading orange and lavender. The city below them buzzed with energy, but they sat above it all, quietly content. As Roy cleared the plates, he paused, then looked at her more seriously. "You ever think about the future?" She raised an eyebrow. "That's vague. You mean kids, marriage, moving to a farm and raising goats?" He laughed. "I meant all of it, I guess." Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Then she stood and walked over to him, slipping her hand into his. "I used to think the future was something I had to chase, something I had to earn. Now, I think it's just about choosing who I want beside me." And she smiled. "I choose you." Roy kissed her, slow and soft, like he wasn't in a hurry to get anywhere else. And for the first time in her life, neither was she. That September, the air turned crisp, and the city began to fold into its autumn mood. Leaves littering the sidewalks, coffee shops filling with warmth, and everything tinged with the kind of nostalgia only the end of a season could bring. Jennifer had always loved fall, but this year it felt symbolic, like her life had truly turned a page. She and Roy took weekend trips out of the city. Nothing grand, just long drives, roadside diners, quiet cabins with creaky floors, and too much firewood. On one of those weekends, while lying beside each other in a bed too small for two adults, but perfect for them, Roy asked something unexpected. "What would you do?" he said, staring at the ceiling. "If we never moved forward from here, if we just stayed in this chapter forever?" Jennifer turned her head slowly. "You mean if we never got married, never had kids?" "Yeah," he said. "Not because I don't want those things eventually, but because I already feel like I have what I was looking for. You, us." Jennifer didn't answer right away. She stared at him, his expression open, unafraid of her answer. "I'd still be happy," she said, "because this, what we have, isn't a stepping stone. It's real. And if this is the best it ever gets, it's already more than I ever thought I'd have." Roy smiled, then pulled her closer. "Still want to move in together officially?" She laughed into his chest. "God, yes. Your sock collection needs supervision." When they moved in together 2 weeks later, it wasn't a grand event. No Instagram posts. No stage photos. Just two people blending their lives. Boxes filled with mismatched dishes, favorite books, and bad movie DVDs. They took their time, painted the walls slowly, fought over whether the couch should face the window or the TV. Jennifer even caught Roy trying to sneak in an ugly rug he'd kept since college. "No," she said flatly, standing in the doorway holding a lamp. Roy groaned. "It has history. It has bacteria." He surrendered. The rug went. Life wasn't perfect. Jennifer still had moments, nights when old anxiety crept in, or days when she'd remember something Evan once said that used to shake her confidence. But those moments didn't paralyze her anymore, because now, when they came, she had Roy to talk her down. And more importantly, she had herself to stand back up. One evening, she came home late from work, exhausted and irritated. Her department had lost a major donor due to budget cuts, and she spent the whole day putting out fires. She expected to come home to dishes in the sink and Roy playing video games, which was fine, but tiring to walk into. Instead, she opened the door to the smell of garlic and tomato, jazz music playing softly, and Roy in the kitchen wearing an apron that said, "Hot stuff coming through." She blinked. "What is happening?" He smiled. "You look stressed this morning. So, tonight's about you." Jennifer stood in the doorway for a long moment, unsure whether to cry or kiss him first. She did both. They ate on the couch, tangled in blankets, watching a terrible action movie. They both pretended to hate, but secretly enjoyed. And somewhere in the middle of that film, halfway through a mouthful of pasta, Jennifer looked at Roy and said, "You know what the best part of all this is?" "What?" "I don't feel like I'm surviving anymore. I feel like I'm living." Roy leaned over and kissed her temple. "Took you long enough to catch up." Jennifer laughed, and it wasn't the guarded kind. It was full, loud, free, because she finally understood the love she gave to the wrong person had never been wasted. It had simply been practice for the person who could hold it right. The final part of Jennifer's story unfolded not with fanfare, but with a quiet kind of peace. The kind that only comes when the storm has long passed and you're standing in sunlight again, barely remembering how cold the rain once felt. It was a year since Evan had last contacted her. No calls, no emails, not even whispers through mutual friends. He had faded out of her world completely, like a ghost who finally accepted he no longer haunted her. Jennifer never looked him up, never checked his social media. Whatever he was now, it was no longer her concern. Her concern was today, this life she had built, brick by brick, breath by breath. She woke up next to Roy on a lazy Sunday morning, their limbs tangled under too many blankets. His snoring had gotten worse, but she'd grown fond of it. It was just one of the many small things about him that felt like home. He mumbled something in his sleep, half words, half nonsense. And she smiled as she rolled out of bed to make coffee. Later that afternoon, they walked through the park where she had once met Evan for the last time. The same bench was still there, the same tree stump, the same path that curved around the lake, but none of it felt heavy anymore. Jennifer walked past it, like someone brushing by a stranger they once knew well, but no longer needed to greet. They stopped near the water, watching a little girl toss breadcrumbs to a flock of ducks. The child's joy was contagious, wild, and honest. "You ever think about having one?" Roy asked quietly. Jennifer looked at him, surprised, but not in the way she used to be when life asked her big questions. This time she wasn't scared, just thoughtful. "Sometimes," she said, "but only because I'd want them to know this kind of love, the safe kind, the kind that teaches them they're never too much." Roy looked at her the way he always did, with steady eyes that never tried to fix her, only hold her. "If we ever do," he said, "I hope they turn out just like you." Jennifer laughed. "You mean stubborn and dramatic. I mean strong and kind and smart enough to leave when someone doesn't see their worth." She reached for his hand, threading her fingers through his. "We'd do it right. Everything we didn't get as kids. Everything we had to learn the hard way." Roy nodded. "Yeah, we would." That night, curled up together on their couch with Chinese takeout and a documentary they probably wouldn't finish, Jennifer realized something powerful. She no longer needed her past to explain herself. Not to anyone, not even to herself. She had walked through heartbreak, betrayal, and shame, and emerged not just standing, but shining. There were no more what-ifs, no unfinished business. If she ever told her story, it wouldn't be about Evan. It wouldn't even be about Maria, or the time she'd been left behind. It would be about the woman who was left twice, but didn't wait a third time. The woman who loved herself enough to move on. Jennifer looked over at Roy, who had fallen asleep halfway through the film, chopsticks still dangling in his hand. She took a deep breath and smiled to herself.